Hail, weary podcast traveler and well met. I see your adventure through the depths of the internet has led you here to sliding into the DMs. Now, this is not a podcast for the dirty boys, as the name implies, but rather a D&D advice and creative concepts podcast where these three nerds take your questions, suggestions, and pop culture influences to turn them into playable content, making goofs all along the way. This show is for everyone, from level 1 adventurers just stepping into the realm of D&D to the level 19 Dragon Slayer. Their aim is to help both players and DMs alike. Even Gary Gygax needed help sometimes. Just ask Dave Arneson. So step into our tavern, take off your cloak of elvenkind, and spend some time sliding into the DMs.
Well, howdy y'all. My name is Thello, and I am a paladin of the great Lord Torm. My compatriots and I are working our best to take down the Lord Bane, but right now what I need to do is I need to have them there Boyos roll for initiative. So boys, roll for initiative.
13.
14.
3.
9.
All right. That means I am starting tonight. Today is a special episode. This is episode 10. First off, we do want to apologize and say we're sorry it's late. We kind of all went through some big things lately. I pulled a Griffin McElroy and said, fuck this shit, I'm packing my bags and moving. Bruce.
I had a baby.
Bruce had a little baby. My godchild. What up? And Nick is being Nick. He's chilling. Nick's chilling in his life. But so yeah, we promised you guys an extra long episode 10 where we're gonna run through and build a campaign. We're gonna build a world and a series of different quests you can do in that world to make a campaign out of it. And we're gonna do that tonight. On another great note, we are joined here tonight by Bruce's dad. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Travis Benning. It's Benning like winning.
But with a B.
With the
B. Because he gets all the B's.
He forgot the rest of his name.
All right. So he's going to be here in the background listening and interjecting every now and again. For some
more now than again.
Right.
Yeah, I'll be telling some jokes, stories, and having a great time.
Get ready, everybody. It's the whole episode.
Hold on to your shorts. It's about to get wild.
You asked for a special episode. Here it is.
Yeah, this is special. So, Trev, you want to go ahead and start us out?
All right. Well, so talking about world building, I know when we were recently on the phone, we had discussed 2 different movies, and those movies was one, Bright, and Bright is a movie where there is a person who is on a police force. It's in a different world. There is orcs and humans and other types of creatures kind of similar to D&D, and there's a racial tension between them in this world. So having a human with an orc partner, there was some racial tension, and then they come across this very powerful magic item that can only be wielded by some, and a large chase ensues to get this magical item. So we kind of talked about that and a good D&D campaign it would make. I think, Bruce, you had one other movie you were discussing a little bit, and we were thinking about kind of mashing them together. Do you want to give a quick rundown on the second movie?
Yeah, so the other movie we had was Season of the Witch.
Yeah,
with
Nicolas Cage and Big Nose Guy.
Yeah, Ron Perlman. So the theme of that movie is a crusader who, just returning from the war, comes back to a blight-stricken town or worldscape, and when he does so, he's suddenly picked up in a contract to escort a supposed witch to a monastery where monks are going to perform a ritual to cleanse her of this witch's curse or witch's bane and stop her from causing the plague. And all along the way, they're dealing with supernatural events happening, like beasts and weather conditions. And when they finally arrive to the monastery, they end up realizing that she, in fact, was a witch. And they have to then deal with her and deal with some other super worldly power that was powering her.
Okay, I like that. I really like the idea of the religious aspect, the church-run state. I think we can definitely play off of that, and we can add that in a little bit with the idea. I really like from Bright the idea of that super powerful magic item, and only some that can wield it. So I think.
So since we have a guest, let's pump him for a question.
Do it.
Let's find out. So, Pops, what do you think is a good villain or storyline?
So I like the storyline of the whole thing, but what does it sound realistic that you're making the move to have those people do that?
Yeah, I mean, in D&D, it's high fantasy, so you have a lot of situations that you wouldn't normally see in our world that you do see in D&D. I guess we forgot to mention his credentials. He knows absolute dick about D&D.
Not a single thing.
So I'm thinking maybe we go crazy and make it dragons.
Yeah, dragons are a mainstream idea in D&D. But you had mentioned earlier when we kind of prompted you for a question, was you had said you really like that movie with Tom Cruise. The movie, I think
the
it's
one
Live,
with
Die,
the
Repeat.
crazy stuff in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Live, Die, Repeat. And
So here's what I think. I think we can get realistic with this, but sometimes we need to sit back and look and see if things are a little bit different in the mechanical world, and maybe we just go crazy go over the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Base it in
So what if
reality and twist it to high fantasy.
So what
I
I,
love
want to
it.
know
Correct.
with Live, Die, Repeat, what is your favorite part of that movie that you'd want to interject?
What
into the
really
game?
caught you?
Well, I like how he has to focus on beating them, but it's hard.
This sure is.
Well,
Dang.
a good part I
If
like
only it
about
was easy.
A good part of the movie that I really enjoy is the resetting whenever they die and they reset and they do try again the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day.
Infinite time loop.
So when they do that, that's something we could apply into the main storyline so that whenever the main characters die, they get stuck in a time loop. So they have to finish this almost like large puzzle that unless they figure out perfectly 100%, every time they die, they reset. Or every time there's a time restraint that when it ends, it resets.
Yeah.
And if they don't figure that out, they reset and try it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely resetting again every time, and then they do that.
Creates a
It's
whole other
amazing.
dynamic.
So for a person who has no idea what fucking movie you're talking about, like, I don't know, myself, what is this obscure?
No, I watched it. I watched part of it today.
What is this obscure fucking Tom Cruise movie that I have never heard of in my life?
I watched it. I watched part of it today.
Live, Die, Repeat?
Yes.
So Tom
Never
Cruise, this character, gets
Yeah,
stuck in the
he's
military. And
he goes re again and re again, and he meets that chick.
Mm-hmm. So there's this badass NPC who
You did awesome.
So there's a badass NPC who trains with these mechanical robots, and it teaches her to fight the enemy. And she does all kinds of weird monk training and dodges all the swords and the lasers. And every day at the same time, they have to jump into the spaceship and go to the war zone and try to defeat this alien race. And when they're fighting this alien race, they're super advanced, and they're always wiping them out. They're always losing the same battle. But whenever they die, Tom Cruise and this main chick reset and wake up at the start of that day.
Think about it as like Groundhog's Day meets D-Day.
Meets
100%.
Meets Pacific Rim.
Groundhog Days.
Meets Pacific
And-
Rim or something like that.
Yep.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
It's super badass fight scenes. It's an overall puzzle. He keeps meeting these milestones, but the second he dies, he has to restart. So he starts to fall into like, what is it? The Lost Time, and
But it's like aliens chasing him.
you know Taz.
11th hour.
11th hour.
Yes.
Very 11th hour.
Okay. So now, do we want to pick 2 of the 3 movies we have discussed and try to combine them,
thinking
or
all 3.
do we?
Yeah.
So do we want to do all 3 and make a campaign out of all 3 ideas?
So
Maybe
I
this
really
is an
like,
effect of the magical weapon is the...
Yeah, it's
the
almost
therapy.
like the animus spell,
Mm-hmm.
the chalice of...
Temporal.
Yeah, the temporal chalice.
Okay.
So the same thing is whenever they have this wand that they're chasing after, that one from Bright, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Yep.
So the Bright wand is what they're chasing after, but it's being wielded by a specific magic user. And it's strung up with the church, the government, and as they get strung up, they have to deal with the reanimated
No
time
way I can
loop.
get over that, Bruce.
And with that reanimated time loop, they're able to basically fight the same battle over and over again. But in this case, it is trying to get that wand from someone else, or move that wand or that item or the witch across where the road they have to get to the final point. And they're not going to stop resetting until they get that NPC to the final goal mark. And every time in history, and every time they get to that one point, there's something happens, and there's just all kinds of roadblocks in the way stopping them. So whenever they get to those roadblocks, they have to use creative thinking to get over that roadblock and surpass it. But then there's just another one, and they have to do it perfectly every time. And then when they finally get to saving the NPC that they're after, that's when the loop stops, and then they continue on with the rest of the story.
Okay. All right. So I think we have a basic, very minimal skeleton in place. I would like to, if you guys will follow me with this, build the world to put it in, and then we can add the flavor to the quest from the world we build. And then from there, then we can start really fine-tuning everything and giving it all of the specific quests and completely finish building out the DM skeleton.
Okay.
So for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about when I say a DM skeleton and making that metaphor, what we like to follow when we are building a campaign is we try to get away as much as possible from the straight D&D story books that tell you go in here, this happens, you go in here, this happens, you go in here, this happens. Because it's very, very easy for your players to completely derail that situation. So,
And then you have nothing to go on.
then you have nothing to go on. So what you do is you have a basic flow of a timeline where basically you can imagine you're starting at the feet of this skeleton, and you have just major plot points, right? So, all right, this first event is his feet. The second one is his legs, or, maybe it's his shin. And then you have, the femur, and then you go up into the vertebrae, and then you go into the rib cage, and then the neck, and then the head is going to be your BBG, big bad guy. So you really just have major plot points that you want to get to, but how the players decide to get there, or the world route they take to get there, is up to them, and it makes them have a much more open world feeling, and where they can do everything else they want to do, and you can just railroad a couple of situations when needed to kind of get them back onto that main plot arc that you have, without just completely railroading the entire campaign. You just need these couple of main things to happen in order to build towards your final piece.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
All right, everyone, let's all wave and say goodbye to Pops. Bye, Pops. Love ya.
I told you that second
Nah,
drink
don't
was too
forget
much,
to take your
Bruce.
back
I
pedals.
told you that second drink was too much, damn it.
I told you if we gave him enough, he'd go to bed.
He said he was going to party like it's the 80s, all right?
Maybe next podcast.
All right.
But the 80s was 30 or... No, 50 years ago.
40 years ago, Bruce. 40
Long
years
time
ago.
Yeah,
All right,
if you guys had
fine.
cocaine out here,
Or-
I'd be
sorry,
doing it.
Nick-
I'd be staying up all night. I've done a lot with cocaine. You guys don't have it?
Cacao! All right. So, first off, bye, Pops. Sorry.
Bye, Pops.
Bye. we to get this world building started, going off of I think the world of
the season of the witch.
Season of the Witch. Like I said, I kind of like that idea as the world. I love that church-run state.
Church state, yeah.
And I think we can really play off of that. And I think we can make it a really cool twist on the other two stories. So I think that would be really good. And then I really like I said, the idea of the powerful magical item, the wand, and then the time loop, 11th hour time loop, or live, die, repeat time loop. So starting off with this church-run state idea, I kind of like the idea of it almost being like a totalitarian church-run state. They control everything, and they are
the government.
Yeah, their way, everything. What do you think, as this church-run state, what is their ideas on magic, first off?
Okay, well, I kind of had a little bit of an overview thought. Do you want me to jump into that or jump into magic and their thoughts on magic?
No, give me the overview thought.
So my overview thought, kind of a way to mash them all together, is that it kind of fuses the bright idea to the season of the witch to live, die, repeat. And what that is there is a magic wand. And this magic wand is of ancient creation, and it is the center relic of this society. The church uses this to hold control over stuff. And when they do this, they have a certain pedestal that they keep it in that acts as a magnifier, and over this area, it keeps time normal. For whatever reason, this area is enchanted. Maybe it's from like the Feywild or some other dimension, or it's a spot that shouldn't exist here. It's either from the future or the past, but it exists in this timeline.
It's in a chaotic realm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that a lot.
And so it's in the prime material plane, but this wand is the magic source, like the battery that allows them to stay in time here. And throughout the story, there is a young witch who somehow gets their hands on it. They snag it, steal it, or come into possession of it. And when they take it from its magnifying pedestal, that's what starts creating the time loop, because it's no longer they're keeping things in balance, so it's resetting, it's malfunctioning. And what it is it gets stolen, it starts the reset, and the leader of the church, the main person who created this enchantment or this ritual to make this work, is resetting with it, and they're not used to it. They don't know how to deal with it. And the group of party members who's playing this game will stumble into this time loop and get stuck in there. And when they start interacting, they get put into this time loop over and over and over and over again, because it was stolen the same day that they entered this town. And this gives you the railroading ability without railroading, because it sticks them into this problem and they can't just get out. Because even if they try to leave, nightfall comes and the time resets, and boom, they restart the next day entering town. And so what they have to do is they now have to hunt down this witch, and they don't know who the witch is or what it is, but on the road they come across a small, feeble witch that doesn't seem to be a witch. It's just an NPC to help, but that's the person who has it. And maybe they don't know its power or what it's for or why they have it, they just do. And so the whole point of the questing is to track her down and find a way to get that wand back into place to at least to stop the resets. And when they do, then that's the second half of the game, where now what do you do with the government and the girl and everything else? Are you going to play to the government's need and the church's needs and give them what they want and give them this witch, as for punishment and things like that? Are you going to try to protect the girl and overthrow this government that's church run? How does the party deal with it, and how do they feel about it based off their alignments and their player backgrounds? So that when they do, they play half of it by stopping the resetting, and then they play the next half of it in real time. Do they just leave it be and kind of wander off, or do they continue and finish out the story? And that'll give you, more experience from the game. If you continue it or if you just leave it behind, it becomes an ongoing problem that'll affect them later.
Okay, so real quick, if I can.
Well, you can, but will you will?
I will. So if I can, to get this to happen the way I think you need it to, because the big plot point in Live, Die, Repeat is that the reason he knows of the Groundhog Day effect is because he has one of these can't remember what they call him. One of these aliens, a higher form of these aliens, blood gets spilt on him and kills him. But because it entered his bloodstream, he is now connected to their network of reset. Mm-hmm. So he knows what's going to happen. That's why they've been winning every war, is because every time they die, they repeat the same day. So they know what's going to happen next. And so I think what you got to do is have the party finish, like they're finishing a quest, or they have a simple quest that leads them into the castle or like rooms adjacent to this chamber where this wand is kept, and then they, you know, hear some kind of commotion and open the door to the or the door is open to the wand room, and that's when they grab it, and there's some kind of pulse of energy that comes off of it that loops them in to the reset, so they keep their memories of the reset. But once they're in that, then they go through, like you said, trying to figure out the time loop puzzle of, you know, how do we catch this girl, and who is she, and where is she? But they didn't see her. All they saw was when the doors opened, there was this crazy arcane blast that came through and basically inducted them into the reset.
Well, something I was thinking too, kind of pulling directly from the movie, is we can almost create a new creature that will be released. Whenever they remove it, a rift opens up, a rift that it was sealing, and that's what is allowing creatures from the dimension that the town is from spilling over, and they're causing this issue. And that'll be one of the first encounters they run into, where when they slaughter them, they get their blood or they get some of their essence on them, and that is what kills them. It disintegrates them, and then they reset.
Okay. So maybe this wand is creating a field that's keeping these things out, or keeping that rift locked.
Yeah, locking the rift.
Like it's a lock pin in the rift, and so when that pin is removed, and then it's open, you know?
Yeah. So if we want to swing back a little bit, I like this idea in Bright that I think will also entice the party in certain ways too, of this girl that is, you know, in trying to get this wand, and she's trying to keep it from these, you know, overpowerful people trying to use it for bad reasons, and the party kind of befriends her. I think it'd be a good idea to throw that in too, just to give them a little bit of emotional
investment.
Okay.
Yes.
Investment.
Some emotional attachment to the situation. Yeah, some investment, right? So what if they meet this witch or this person before this time loop starts for some reason, and then once they meet her and this happens, but they don't know in the beginning when they first start entering this time loop, they don't know it's her. But the more times they repeat this time loop and the more things they go through and the closer they get to getting this wand, the more information they find out, they actually find out it was her. And then they have to, like, well, they're already somewhat emotionally invested into this girl. So then, okay, wait, I know this girl is not doing these for bad reasons. So what is her reason behind taking it? And then from there, that's where you can really start to get an actual decision on that final decision Nick was talking about, of are we gonna help, you know, team A or team B, or, you know, where do they go with it after they are able to break this time loop and move forward? What are they going to do after, right? And one of the good ways of keeping them from, like Nick was saying, being like, oh, well, you know, okay, the time loop's broken, all right, Asta by town, and just bouncing out and leaving it, is giving them some type of emotional attachment to the situation. So I think if we get them emotionally attached to this person and get into her reasons of why she was doing what she was doing, then that can pull them further into the world and further into an emotional attachment to actually proceed past just beating the time loop.
Setting up the game. Is the party or the players going to be running a one shot, or are they setting this into their game that they already exist? So with making that emotional investment for the player, I feel like if you're integrating this into your party's normal game, their normal campaign, you can just pick, you know, an integral NPC that the party already loves or already has an attachment to, and then drop them into the storyline. Otherwise, if they're running it as a one shot, I think it'll be a little bit more difficult to work meeting them in ahead of time, because you'll be kind of starting the one shot as the party enters the town, or maybe the next town with the quest that leads them there. But we can write in, that type of option for the module that'll say, if you're running a one shot, the party starts off in the town just south of this town, and the person that gives them the quest to eventually go up there is the first NPC they really run into, and that ends up being this magical caster. We keep saying chief or witch, but it could be anyone, really. It could be, anyone. But the magic user in question, they have to meet ahead of time, anyone. So we put them in the town before that gives them another small quest, or the focal point of a quest given by somebody, or if they're running a campaign and they want to integrate this storyline into their campaign, it would work it'd be a lot more smoother with creating that emotional investment with an NPC that they already have met previously in the game.
See, I can see it going the other way too, though, of like, you're starting this one shot and it's going to be easier to program this NPC into their kind of group than it would if they were already running an existing campaign, because they already know the motives and the ideas behind a lot of their NPCs.
Yeah.
I could see that, starting the one shot, you start them in a tavern and they're sitting there at the table with their party, and they're, you're introduced, like, you as the DM are introducing them and like their exploits that they've done together. And then once you get to this NPC, you say like, oh, so you have another party member, which I will be playing alongside you guys. And, they have been with you through thick and thin. They do this, that, and the other. This is their motives. This is their personality. You guys can rely on them to give you the information you guys need.
So
and that way you can use
the game's backstory.
Yeah, and then that way you can use them as info drops.
Okay.
And then when you get to that scene of you guys are walking through the castle, and then you guys past the door that has, you guys all kind of feel this irradiation of this, like the hairs on your arms stand up like it's like static electricity, and that's the room where they keep the wand. And as you guys walk past that chamber, all of a sudden you hear a commotion, you look back, the doors fly open, and a wave of energy comes across you. But what they don't know, and what they'll probably find out later, is that the last person in line behind them was this NPC that you're playing. And so every time you reset, you give them a little bit more of that, and that it was actually her that burst into the room. And her actual backstory is that, she was kidnapped by this group of underground mafia style, and basically conditioned to find a group that would get her close. And that's what she did. So she had to go on a couple quests with them, and had to do a couple jobs with them to gain their trust, and show that their ability was great enough to get them into a position where they would come across this. And then that's when she, dipped in and took off.
So I think one problem I foresee with that is now you're setting up a betrayal.
Who doesn't like a betrayal, though, Ted?
Well, I know, but I said if the point is to get them to stay in this town after they fix the time loop and eventually fight a big bad guy, and to pick a side that they're going to be going on to, you're setting up already that this character that they trusted and loved so much is betraying them. That already pains.
But it's not actually her, because it's the conditioning that she went through. She was basically forced into this. Like, she was forced into the conditioning of, you need to find this group that's going to get you into that castle to get you to steal that wand, because that underground mafia basically was doing the same thing that the mafia, or not mafia, but that gangster group in Bright was doing, by drugging potential witches that could hold the wand, or they call them brights, the potential brights to hold the wand and not disintegrate on contact. Is they were getting them addicted to drugs and then having them try and hold the wand. And so it can be the same thing with her, of like, she went through this conditioning that made her submissive to their wishes, and then they set her out in the world with this strict goal of getting to a point where she can get that wand.
So what I'm thinking is the wand has a certain connection to certain kinds of people, preferably native-borns of the dimension they're from.
Okay.
That ties into the city, and make it a rule that whenever locals of this town try to leave and step out of the bubble, they age extremely quickly. The time distortion in the town and outside the town damages those who try to leave the city, but for whatever reason this NPC was able to leave. And because of that is something in her blood that is ancient and old and sleeping inside of her, something that is currently dormant. And on this day of the wand theft, it awakens. For whatever reason, she left and it lay dormant, and she
Calls to
re-entered.
her.
And when
Yeah.
she re-entered, the thrall took her over, and she's no longer herself. So once that starts out in the town and she re-enters this town, she goes and she seeks out the wand, or the wand just appears to her as it's her native birthright. And so whenever she takes it, all kinds of hell starts to break loose. These other creatures start coming from the rift, and she's controlling them. But there's no longer the bright or the witch. It is the entity inside of her taking over. So when that'll end up being the big bad. So like Season of the Witch, the NPC ends up being the big bad.
Mm-hmm.
But it gives them so they can just outright kill the NPC, and it would kill the girl too, or they can use puzzles and figure things out as a way to find a way to save the girl and separate them, so it kills the big bad and saves the NPC.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of thinking of setting up a Raven situation from Petals to the Metal. Okay, I can see that, where it's like, this item has a thrall, just like the items in Bureau of Balance do, and maybe because of her birth, it is what calls it to her, rather than calling it to everyone like the items in Bureau of Balance do. But it's specifically calling out to her, and when she re-entered, that's when the thrall starts, and because of her blood and her birth.
Or she's
origins.
a conduit to the ancient one. Yeah.
So I would like that. That sounds better to me, because it's not just a straight. There is a betrayal in there, because it's their friend that is suddenly doing all of this terrible things, and they're going to feel betrayed at first. But then once they uncover the real story and find out what actually happened, then they realize they're not actually betrayed, that their real friend is still in there. She's just being controlled by another entity, which is the object itself, or some type of warlock or person from the other dimension that controls this device.
What do you guys feel?
I do like that.
What do you guys feel about this setting is a fringe or a gateway dimension to one of the hell dimensions in D&D? So like this is like, you know how when you walk into the ocean, it's not just a straight drop off all the time. It's normally most people's recollection of the ocean is it's a slow gradient into deep water.
Or at least at the beach.
At least at the beach, yeah. So you walk this slow gradient into deep water. So this land is basically like chest deep in water. So this is like the chest deep point for the hell dimension, but it's being protected by this wand and the barrier it creates. And so like if you go out, you have to, you're not like struggling and fighting for your life because it's only chest deep, but there's still dangers out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's still getting close to the hell dimension as well. So it's like you can recognize that the surroundings around you are hell dimension, but you're not in complete danger all the time. And so, but this wand is kind of like your life vest.
Okay.
And it's what's keeping this town afloat and keeping it in the warm beach, kind of the warm sand, but it is, chest deep in the ocean.
So what do you think then?
But then once the wand is taken off,
that life vest is gone.
The life vest goes away, and then that drops you into the Marianas Trench.
I was thinking I was thinking slow roll it, so you start getting waves that start to splash up, and those waves are getting bigger and bigger until that life vest is restored.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
So a thought I had on this too, being that there's a hell dimension, is the story of how the city came to be. And the backstory for the city is that in whatever layer of hell this connects to, there is a royal family that oversees the entire circle of hell. And a young prince, a demon prince, who has a bone for mischief and trickery.
Just name him Gray.
Yeah. Okay.
But a chaotic demon prince who has a mischievous bone takes an ancient relic that is highly powerful and controlling and ruling over the hell dimension, and decides to create a new plane of control, that he is no longer at the bottom of the royal family, but the only royal family. And he comes to the prime material dimension, and when he does, he sets up this town, and there is an ancient priest that's pope-like who oversees all of the laws and everything else in this town, and that's the demon prince in disguise.
Ooh.
But whenever he cast the ritual to stop his family members from coming over him and sealing the portal, his soul and being was sucked into the wand itself, and a couple of his closest followers take over the running of the city. So it's no longer a pope, but now there's a small senate almost of clergy members who are running this city under a false god, when really they are just doing it for themselves.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I like that. Man, we are throwing a lot of Taz at this.
Yeah, we are.
But as Matthew Mercer says, if you like that shit, steal it.
Or as my old ceramics teacher once said, all art is stolen from other art.
It all has to build off of something else, right?
Yes, sir.
You don't just end up with the Mona Lisa, you know?
Well, funny story about the Mona Lisa. It actually is only famous because of it being stolen at some point, and there's huge newspaper articles, stories about it in the U.S., and because it became popular in the U.S. because of the news, it became famous, and when it was returned back to its owners, it became a great deal of influence only because the U.S. decided to make such a big deal out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. You know what? You got me there, okay? So Van Gogh's Starry Night didn't just come out of nowhere.
No, it took
right?
many years of depression and self-deprecating habits.
And influences from previous artists that developed a style. That style then became...
Let's use an artist I'm familiar with. Let's talk
the style
about Ansel Adams.
How about we stop talking about artists altogether?
But I like Ansel Adams. He does sceneries of trees and shit.
All right, you're right. Choo, 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 motherfuckers. Back on track. All right.
So, I like what you're saying about there being a clergy that takes over, but for their own selfish needs, because I imagine this demon prince who's stolen the body of this high clergy member or pope or however you said it. They almost seemingly sacrifice themselves to seal off these demons who are trying to come in and take them.
But without realizing it.
But without realizing that he's going to seal himself in because he also is of that same demon blood.
Young and naive.
Yeah. And so it creates this weird biome of selfishness camouflages righteousness. Mm-hmm. And that's where this little biome lives on this border. Or what if he goes to the prime material plane, creates a city, or finds a city, takes over that person, creates this culture around worshiping himself as the one that talks to God because he's able to do those things that they ask the God for, creates a city, and then when he goes to seal away his family from coming in and taking him back, what happens is he does that. He seals his family away, but he is a part of his family, so he seals himself away and is now captured in this magical item. But to rectify the situation, what the other high demons of this family or of the court or of the circle do is they take the city.
Yeah.
So they basically cut the border of where this force field of the biome lives, and they transport that whole city into the hellscape, and that's why it's there.
I was thinking what it is a bit of backstory, because he comes here and he is a trickster, so he's running around the prime material plane, sleeping with mortals, and running havoc as Zeus would. And as he's doing so, he amasses a small following, and he takes that following to the point where his power is strongest through the leak of the hell dimension.
Ooh, okay.
And through the powers of the people that follow him, he creates a cult that he is able to say, look at this, send your prayers. And after 3 weeks of heavy prayer from all of his followers to this fake god, he uses the power of the wand to, in a single day, erect a city where there was none.
Ooh, I like that.
And just all these great, crazy feats that inspire, blind religion, blind following, blind trust. And when he does so, all these people are dumbfounded. But because he hadn't created this temporal area yet, all of the mortals he slept with are the ones who have his blood in it and their offspring. So what if a handful of them, this NPC comes from one of those mortal offspring?
So I get a big vibes from Full Metal with the false deity, where he's, supposedly creating something from nothing, where he has a philosopher's stone, and he has like this massive following of people behind him because he's able to perform miracles. And so I get that big vibe of like he amasses his following for little to no reason.
Yeah.
And he's just promising things and not actually having to deliver on them. But I love that idea that, he's performing all these great feats and that's what's getting his followers, and that's why not everyone knows. And then the idea of him sleeping with a bunch of different races and peoples and stuff, I could see this as tieflings being created. So there's a pure tiefling who has the horns and everything, the horns and the tail and all that.
Yeah.
And then you have the muddled tieflings who don't have as great horns, or they don't have as pronounced tails, or
some
long.
can even be if it's a half elf that he made with, it comes out to where their skin is just a little bit grayer than normal.
Oh, like a drow.
And instead of a normal nose, maybe it's pushed back and has more of a slit look to it. And
yeah, like a bat.
And just slight altercations to their visage.
But yeah, they're of the same kind of pure pure bloodline, or you have the muddled bloodline of where, those generations of tieflings, created generations and generations. Now you have your basic tiefling who doesn't have very pronounced horns, doesn't really have a tail most of the time. But this NPC that you cook up to be the Bright or the Witch is as pure bloodline member to this demon prince as can be, and that is why it calls to her. That's why it still has that connection to her. And she may not even have aspirations to take this thing until it comes time.
Until it takes her over. And the thing is, like, she doesn't get the feeling to take this or have it. I think it's as soon as she enters the realm of influence of this item, it clicks with her, and she doesn't have to take it. As soon as it clicks, it apparates in her hand, and she doesn't know what to do with it. She's confused, and this cycle restarts until they finish the ritual that releases it.
Okay. What do you think?
Yeah,
there's a lot.
Man, some heavy shit, man. A lot. Okay. Do we want to...
But
I feel like we're really nailing down the story.
I think for the world building aspect
really well
is you have a highly volatile landscape around them, but they are protected by the light walls of the city. Now, I imagine that's...
Not just light walls. Let me take you to the Imagination Theater.
Okay.
When you approach the city, you can see a partially spherical dome of melted or dried and cured obsidian, reaching over like a half moon, stretching over the cathedral walls and cathedral towers. And this is because lore and stories tell of the magic of the great god they all worship, protecting them from a volcano, because this sky or this rift that connects to the Hell Dimension is close to a volatile volcano that is known to go off quite regularly and has been known to be quite active, where it goes off 2 times a month, 3 times a month on the average. And when they erected the city there, people thought it was crazy, couldn't be done, ridiculous, and the god's power protected them. For whenever an outside influence like lava comes over, it just splashes on top and rides up the dome and the sphere of influence and hardens over it. So you can see a physical line of molten and hardened rock that is now obsidian that lines it to where you see this jagged, craggled half dome stretching over it, almost like something out of Castlevania.
I imagine like the volcano sits at the lip of a Grand Canyon-esque canyon. And then down near the bottom of this canyon is where that city is. So it's like you can get down there and you can get to and from it. There's even roads cut into the sides of the walls, but zigzagging pathways that go up the side of the walls. But once you see it, once you actually see it, you can see the dome structure, you can see the molten rock, and you can see the volcano off in the distance. There's not much light that ventures down here, but once you're inside the dome, it's almost as if you're up at the lip.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Okay. What type of church do you think this demon prince would have built?
So I think the kind of god that he would create for all his people to worship would be in his own visage, someone who's extremely chaotic and even evil at times. But it's not seen as evil, it's seen as trickery. It seemed as fun or mischief. Kind of like the Traveler from Critical Role Campaign 2. But it's not so much the traveler, like it's just about playing jokes. It's playing jokes and getting great outcomes for yourself. You know, this god is all about creating mischief, but the mischief always turns out to be favorable in the end for the parties involved, including the ones that were robbed.
From a Bim Bam, it's 20 griftine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the grifter.
And so he creates this false god in his own visage and his own ideals, but it's all a hoax just to kind of get people to create more pranks, more silly goofs, and more chaos around it, because he likes to see the harm and stuff. And one of the biggest things is, after you're harmed doing these types of acts, you can just go to the church or go to the cathedral and you're healed for it. But part of the healing process is a ritual that deems if you're worthy of being healed. And if you try to go get healed for things outside of performing mischief, it backfires and harms you and almost places a curse on you because you've acted outside the tenets of the religion.
Interesting.
Okay, Nick, I just want, as the stat puncher, to clarify for people who don't know or kind of have this misconception of the good, neutral, and evil alignments, because the evil alignment is not what people
so a quick breakdown.
usually associate
the four major
with the
points
word
to look
evil.
at are going to be evil, good, chaotic, and lawful. You have neutral, which is exactly as it sounds. You don't fit in either one. You're just middle balance. So if you're lawful, it doesn't necessarily mean you follow all laws. There is a certain spectrum of laws or beliefs that character holds true, and they live by those laws themselves. Chaotic means you don't listen to laws, you don't listen to rules, and you do whatever you want because it's what you want, regardless of the reasoning behind it. Good simply means you are selfless. You do things for the betterment of others, and that means even if it puts you at risk or someone else in your party at risk, you do it because it helps somebody. Evil in D&D doesn't necessarily mean you're a murder hobo who just kills everything and commits great atrocities. It could literally just mean greedy. You do things simply for your own personal gain, for your own growth, and for your own objectives. So if you were with a party and the goal was to capture the Holy Grail for, this quest you're on, but you want the Holy Grail for, your own specific needs, you go along with them until you get it, then you break off and you try to steal it and go use it for what you need, because your whole purpose was for you, not with what the party wanted. You do it for self-gain, self-improvement, and finishing off your own goals.
Exactly. Okay. So I just want to clarify that. So, because the idea of building a church around what most people consider evil would be a weird concept. But building it, around these evil, mischievous acts that are not evil as our society would say, but evil in the D&D realm just means for self-gain, not for the betterment of others, not for, society or anything. You're doing it strictly for yourself, and that is what an evil alignment character means. So if we are building a deity that's going to be evil, that is why. He rewards self-gain. So I believe there are some standard guidelines to building a deity.
A good thing to look into is, too, once Tasha's Cauldron comes out, one of the things in there that we can use is group patrons. So they have instructions there on how to build and use a group patron. So maybe instead of being an actual deity, it's a patron, like that for a warlock. And you create this group patron, so they're not quite a full deity, but it's still worshipped and they can draw power from it. And the patron would be the Pope-like person themselves who's in the wand, and that person being in the wand is able to release their energy and their power to the people who worship them as a patron, as if they're all level 1 warlocks.
I don't know about y'all, but I pre-ordered that. Waiting for that Tasha's Cauldron to come out. But like you said, this demon prince is building himself up as basically a deity, right? Everyone thinks he is a deity. So in order to really successfully have a deity, there's certain things it has to have, right? Bruce, do you remember?
I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but I believe it was they have to have a realm. They have to have a sigil or some kind of identifier symbol. They have to have
some symbology.
They have to have an ideal or an alignment, and then they have to have
Well, those are the three big ones.
Those are the three big ones. Yeah, there was another one, but it wasn't. Oh, a name, but that wasn't really important.
So the big part there comes into with if you were to pick a paladin class or a cleric class or even a warlock class with them as your patron or your deity, you need to know which oath the paladin's taking and which order the cleric is taking. So that way, whenever they pick their patron or deity, you know which spell list or which spells they gain at which levels and which order they belong to. So if you pick an order of power, you can pick a regular deity from the D&D deity options and follow where their oath or their order that they fall under, and kind of just copy and paste it over or make some match.
All right. And then also,
and that's what
you talked about a sigil. So the reason I think that's going to be important is if he's building up this world and this following and stuff, I imagine that sigil just being plastered all over this town.
Yeah,
hanging on flags everywhere. It's going to be stoneworked into the church. It's going to be on their robes.
Door, every house's door.
So the first sigil that comes to mind, the first symbol that comes to my head of this chaotic trickster, create your own kind of, luck and world kind of deity is the double head coin. Mm-hmm. So on one side it's a head and the other side it's a head. Heads if I win, I pick heads, and if I win, I get this. Flip the coin, heads, I win.
So,
it's always going to land on heads.
As you were saying that, Bruce, the thing that came to mind to me was like a silk hat, right? Like a top hat, like a magician's top hat. Mm-hmm. So what if it's a double-headed coin, but that's kind of hard to depict on a 2D surface, right? So if you're embossing that into stone on the church's surface, or making a medallion pin that people put on their robes, stuff like that, it needs to be easily a 2D.
No, I disagree.
Emblem.
Because I think that because this god or this deity is so out there, that there is no 2D representations. Mm-hmm. All the doors have a hole cut out. And
with a coin that flips
and it spins.
It
spins.
Yeah.
And so they always have some type of jewelry that marks them as followers, and on all the doors and the roads, to make it more difficult for the amusement of this deity, it can only be shown as an actual two-sided coin.
So there's no flags or no objects that are not movable. But for depicting...
Or even a flag. The flag comes out, but there's a hole cut in the flag, and leather wrap the hole, and it holds a post that spins the coin around it.
Okay, so the flag is rigid except for the center coin. That's their flag. But depicting this on a 2D surface is easy. You draw the coin with the face facing one way, right? And then you cut it in half, and you flip it over, so you have the head like a playing card where you have the Joker looking one way and then the Joker looking the other way, but down. So you depict it like that, where it's a coin, where the top, once half of the coin, the face is looking left, and then the other half of the coin, the face is upside down and looking right. So it's saying, like, either side you're getting, heads.
Okay, what if, maybe just to encompass this trickster ideology a little bit more, what if it's a two-headed coin, but instead of the head on it, it is a hat?
Okay.
Or it's someone wearing a top hat.
I like the idea of someone wearing a top hat more than just the hat, but I feel like that's almost too, like, if it's a deity, that almost feels too current. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's a deity from olden times and it has a top hat on, it feels kind of like betraying of its ancient and powerful nature. What if...
Well, the wand, there is no time frame.
True.
Plus,
true.
This is a time screwing item.
True.
I mean, who's to say that top hats weren't created in the Nine Hells as a way to get people to dress silly?
Yeah, I could see that. So what if it's a hat with horns in it? Like, it's a top hat, but it has the horns coming up through the...
What if the symbol is a top hat that has coins that hang around the brim?
Or instead of a bow or a fold on the tie around the head, it's a ribbon that has a coin in it, and then the rest of the
Well,
ribbon.
I was thinking multiple coins wrapped around it because not only does it symbolize the hat that symbolizes magic and magicians and such, it's also you have all the coins that are on it, so it represents the crown. So when you put this hat on, all the coins are on it. It's now heavy. So heavy is the head that wears the crown, symbolizing that I am the leader. But it's hard to be the leader. I'd rather be silly and fun, represented by the strange top hat, as opposed to something more relevant to the fantasy realm.
I like that, or I like that a lot. But I like the idea instead of them hanging down, they are the band.
Okay.
Like so, like it looks like top hat, but instead of the flat
Like
band,
a silver belt.
yeah, it's like a silver belt that has coins pressed into it.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah. So
On
now
a skeleton or a skull's face. The what's wearing the hat is a skull's face with an enormous grin.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
Yes.
It's a skull
Yes.
wearing a top hat, where the ribbon on the hat is a silver band with coins pressed into it. I like that a lot.
And that is itself on a coin,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
which is two-headed.
Yeah.
And that, like you were saying, it's not used in a two-dimensional way. It everywhere is in a three-dimensional.
Yeah, just to
Portrayal.
make life harder for the people that live there and follow.
Yes. I love this so much.
Yes, it's super cool imagery.
Okay. All right. I like this world we've built. We
Okay.
have the town. We have the lore.
Mm-hmm.
We have the big bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
We have a real thin skeleton with a couple of major points on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do we want to build some quests inside of this that are going to take them from that foot of the skeleton up to the head of the skeleton?
Well, before we jump in there, you had asked earlier, and I never answered your question on how do we feel about what we think the government or the church's feelings are around
Magic.
On magic.
And previously we had talked a little bit about, heavy control, but I feel magic is almost overly glorified. They want everyone here to do magic. They like wild magic.
Those
They
who
like
do
it.
cast are considered above or
Yeah.
higher class than others.
Yeah, so magic is taught a lot here, but they're taught spells that aren't the normal spells. They're taught tweak spells that have consequences.
Mm-hmm.
You can create food and water as a druid, but if you learn it here, they teach you these spells in a way that you create food and water. But if you create food or water, the water comes out differently as mud or something, or
It's not create food and water. It's create Cheetos and wine.
yeah. I could see something like that too. That's something silly to where it's like
It's just tweaked a little
insights, and it creates strange cheese flavored crunchies
bit. Mm-hmm.
and sweet fruit flavored wines.
Mm-hmm.
So we pull stuff from our real life and then fantasyfy it so that it makes sense. Like yeah, you got these weird crunchies. We're not sure what they're made out of, and they're orange, and your fingers get stained.
Yeah.
But God, once you crack that bag,
You can't just have one.
Yeah, you can't just have one. You eat the whole bag.
Yeah. I like that a lot. And
We can create, a couple tables for these kind of spells that, you roll a dice and it's random. You get food. Well, one person gets Cheetos and wine, and the other one gets a bologna sandwich, Kool-Aid, and, just random, like, simple, easy go-to foods. Or you get, like,
Yeah.
a word PB&J, but it's jalapeno jelly on it.
Yeah.
Or you get two things that totally don't go together. You got like pickles and chocolate milk.
Yeah.
Oof. No.
Or
It's orange slices and milk.
Oh,
So it
or
curdles.
and if you roll a 1 on the D10 of your list, all you get is a plate full of toothpaste and a glass of OJ.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Yes.
Or OJ and a big bucket of mint chip ice cream.
OJ, a glove, and a knife. Oh, wait, hold on.
Different OJ. Different OJ.
Oh, no, wrong OJ.
This one's got a white Bronco. Run, run.
It's just a white horse.
Ride the white pony.
No, that was from the 80s.
Oh, wait. Oh, what's up, Travis?
Oh, God. Okay. We've answered the magic question, I think. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
So railroading back onto our skeleton of quests to get them to the BBG.
Okay.
So what's the foot in the door? So what is the bottom of the skeleton? What is the foot that gets them into the door?
So I think there needs to be a start quest before they even get to this town or this society. What gets them to this society? What is the first small quest that leads them here?
So what about stealing a little bit more from the Nicolas Cage, who Bruce loves so much, Witch movie?
Uh-huh.
What if they are in a random town outside of this and they have to run a prisoner transport into this city?
Okay.
Like this is an exile point where they take someone and exile them there?
Oh,
Yes.
here's a thought. There has been wanted posters that were sent out by this town all over the local area looking for half tieflings, looking for people who have tiefling blood but aren't
Horned
full tiefling.
tieflings.
Yeah.
Because the horns and the tail show that they're pure
Or
blood.
not even pure blood. We want the half tieflings. We want the ones that he mixed with. So that he's looking for one with a specific horn shape or a specific tail shape. If you see these people that have, a horn where only one grew out fully and the other one's just a nubbin, and you capture them and bring them in, they have $1,000 bounty or 1,000 gold bounty per tiefling brought in.
I like that.
And so they'll see the bounty and then run into one while they're in the town, and that can even jog their memory as to the NPC idea for the Bright. That is, we know a person who meets some of this description. We know that one tiefling friend so and so who only has one nubbin.
But then you're gonna run into the problem of now you're gonna basically force them into kidnapping.
Yeah, or you can even have it to where someone sees it and they're like, "Oh, somewhere I belong." They're looking for like don't have it wanted for like a bounty. You have it like, "Hey, missing family members or invitations." Look like, "Hey, we were looking for these types of people. They have a special power to unlock. Come learn here at our academy for free."
I do like the idea that it's a bounty, but you give specific descriptions or names. Like, we're looking for Brutus the Destructor, and he's a tiefling who has one crooked horn and this, that, and the other. And it's just this is a person who fits that description of people we're looking for, but we're not casting the net of, look, we want this. So that way they're bringing those kind of people in.
Wanted alive and unharmed.
Yeah. Wanted alive. Yeah. And then, so when your party who has the NPC tiefling sees this, they, go find this Brutus guy.
Or what if it's not a bounty? What if there is a bounty sent out like, "Hey, is your name on this list? Do you match this description? Come over here. We'll give you 1,000 gold and put you to school to learn magic." And when they do, when they walk up into the town or they enter the town beforehand, an NPC that matches that description is like, "Hey, I'm trying to get here, but it's a desolate wasteland from here to there. Would you mind taking me?" And it's an escort job, not a bounty.
I like that a lot too.
Going off the bounty idea, what if this bounty idea is sent out, right? And they have these posters in this town that they are in. They've seen these posters, and then someone from the town approaches them as renowned heroes and says, "Hey, I'm the mayor of this city," right? Or the sheriff would actually probably be more fitting. "I'm the sheriff of the city. We actually have someone in our custody that did this, and that. They actually matched this. They actually matched this description. We want to turn them in to this other town to collect the bounty for ourselves, but we're such a small outfit here.
We don't have
it's
the
just
manpower."
me. It's the sheriff and my deputy. We can't leave the town to go turn this guy in and collect this bounty. But if you guys do this for me, the town will split the bounty with you."
I like that a lot. I think that's the one.
It's 1,000 gold bounty, so the town would
You have to make it something more enticing. That it's like 5,000 gold bounty, because then it's worth them splitting it, because they're still making 2,500 gold, which is a shit ton of gold in D&D. But that way it also entices the party of like, well, shit, there's 4 of us here and we're still able to split that. So it's still worth it to us. So let's go ahead and take them.
I like that. Okay, then, go meet. I kind of like the idea, too, of the party is what really sets off this whole chain of events.
Mm-hmm.
So what if the prisoner they're taking is this pureblood witch or something that we were talking about as the NPC?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to still go with the idea of they're taking someone else in and then she happens to be there and it's a person from their past?
Yeah, I like the second way better. I like the idea that the NPC is someone that they know outside of this quest that just happens to be there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That way,
All
that
right,
way you
so-
can force them of the dilemma of, well, shit, do we push the issue and betray the person we've worked with for so long, or do we stand by them and defend their side?
Okay. So this town has Brutus the Destroyer locked up. They suddenly get like someone that came around and started posting up all these postings for people that match this description. They're like, wow, we have Brutus the Destroyer. He actually matches this description super well. If we turn him in for this 5,000 gold,
Yeah.
That would be good for us. It gets him out of our jail, and also we get this money that the town could use for XYZ reasons, but we don't have the manpower to take him there. And then the sheriff runs into the party at the inn or whatever and was like, whoa, hey, here's some adventurers that I'm willing to split the bounty with if they will do the legwork of taking this person in.
I also like the idea that, you get them used to looking for job boards. So they come into this new city and they're looking for the job board. And right as they come up to the job board, the sheriff's walking out with a new job to be posted. And that new job is prison transport from this prison to wherever the bounty collection site is. And it just has, see sheriff for details on the paperwork. Yeah. So, it's like promising large money. They don't ever dictate how much. But once you talk to the sheriff, then he tells you, like, oh, okay, it's going to be 5,000 gold for the bounty, or it's 2,500 gold.
Or just 2,000 is what they're offering. They're offering, hey, we have this transport. We'll pay you 2,000 GP to transport for us.
Yeah, and so, but it's upon return with receipt notice of said bounty member.
Another thing too, I would say, is when he's going to the sheriff's going to the job board, it's not just him posting it, but as they walk up, they see the sheriff walk out and start ripping all the other postings off the board.
Ooh, I like
and
that.
Just covers the entire board with copies of the same post.
I like
that's
that a
the
lot.
only one available.
Yeah,
they're like, no one else is getting paid for nothing else. We need someone to do this job because this 3,000 gold is going to be huge for our city. So you go do this. We need this done, and we will pay you guys 2,000 GP.
I like the idea that there's two job boards. One is like public, like, hey, we need someone to protect our apples because goblins.
Yeah.
And then the other one just has one paper on it, dead center pinned in the middle. Says, adventurers wanted, strong backs, strong swords, see sheriff for details, high money reward. And then that's the only one on that board, so it entices them to like, okay.
Yeah, and you can even start this off with almost like, okay, you want to do this job? Well, we need to test you. And then that's how, if they don't know the NPC, they can meet the NPC testing for the same job and failing on their own.
Yeah.
There's a group of adventurers who go through the gauntlet quite easily, and then there's a single person that they meet who's trying but fails out in the second round. And then they finish it, and they're able to pick up the quest, and then they get there, and the person that failed out is trying to complete the quest themselves anyways.
Yeah.
I like that. First leg, they get to this job board. They get this job. Now we have in the foot a gauntlet trial, which we can stage however. Is that something you want to leave up to DM discretion to kind of make up his own gauntlet? Do we want
I think
to run
that's
some
DM
ideas?
discretion because that's very minute detail.
No, I think that's something that we'll build, but we don't have to discuss too much in this
Yeah.
episode. It's going to be more of something that, there's going to be some type of athletic challenge and combat challenge and a wit challenge.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things, too, is that this Brutus the Destroyer, it's called Brutus the Destroyer because not only is he physically imposing and strong and able to fight, but he also wields magic. So they have these anti-magic chains on him, and you're instructed to never remove them. but he's also physically imposing and has also choked out 3 different guards with just his the chain that holds his gauntlets on, or his shackles on.
So he's a very what's his name, Bronson-esque figure.
I imagine him as like Riddick.
I was thinking, yeah, so kind of like Charles Bronson, the most dangerous inmate in the world.
Oh, sure.
Do you know who Charles Bronson is?
No.
Charles Bronson is an English prisoner, was an English prisoner who was deemed the most dangerous inmate in the world. He was a strong fighting, just ass kicker.
I think I saw a Netflix thing on him.
And he went to prison, and he was deemed too violent for prison because he kept killing guards and other inmates. So they sent him to a psyche ward where he kept killing other people in the psyche ward, to the point that they couldn't keep him in prison or in the psych ward. So he was released back to the public because the government just didn't know what to do with him. And he kept going through this revolving cycle of just wanting to beat people to death to make sure he was tough and strong.
He's a big
bald guy with a super big sheriff stash.
Yep. Yeah.
And Charles Bronson wasn't even his real name. He changed his name to Charles Bronson to sound tougher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's very Charles Bronson-esque, where he has one set of tools that he can use, but that's not all he has.
Okay.
And so that could be given put that as part of the gauntlet, knock him unconscious, and you got the job.
Yeah. Well, and then that's the need.
While his hands are tied behind his back and capable of casting magic. So he's super constitution.
Yeah.
Give him 130 HP, and the whole time he's just headbutting the party members.
Well, maybe that's
ridiculous damage.
That's one of the gauntlet is that he has a whole wing of this prison to himself because they can't get in there to lock him in a cell because all they had was the door to that wing, and so that's the only thing keeping him from coming through. And he's
well, the thing is he doesn't try to, or if it's Charles Bronson, he doesn't try to come through. He waits patiently for his next victim.
Well, that's the thing is they went to go put him in a cell and they gave up their back and he choked him out and they died. Yeah. Well, then anyone who came in to try and help, they died too because he just waited for him to walk in within range, and so they just locked the door to that wing, and that's the gauntlet is okay. Unlock this door because he has it. He's on the other side now. You have to find him, and then now you have to knock him out. And if you can knock him out, you got the job. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's the need too, is because all along this trial, all along this ways, he doesn't want to go back there. And so as you're going along, like the knee of the skeleton is that along this travel, he's going to be trying to kill you at every fucking turn. And anytime you guys come into a town and you lose sight of him for a second, or someone who's doing like one of the watches overnight, like they have to fucking keep their eyes on him and not on their surroundings because the more dangerous thing is in their fucking camp with them. And so that whole next part of the leg is the travel.
But I say also give him a sense of warrior's honor, where like if you're sleeping, he's not going to stop.
No. But if you're on watch and you close your eyes for a second and then you open them again, he's on top of you.
All you see is forehead coming.
Yeah.
Yep. I love that. Okay, so they transport this
That'll
badass NPC.
They'll also motivate them to get him there
quicker, because
if you don't, then you're stuck with this fucking murdering, crazy, tiefling psychopath who, every time you sleep, you barely sleep because you're worried that he's going to fucking jump you, even though he told you that, if you lay down and it's not your watch, you don't have to worry about me.
So we're adding a time motivation to it, too, to get them there quick so that they're not jumping off the rails.
And it's more of a morals thing, too, because it's like, this dude is so bad, like, he has to go here, because nowhere else can hold him, like they did with Charles Bronson. Is like, nothing can hold him, so we need to get him here, because that's our next thing. That's the only thing we can think of. And they're promising money for it, so fucking get him there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the whole time he just chirps at them, tries to tell them, take off my cuffs, let's have a fair fight. Let's duke it out. Come on, you pansy.
Or anytime they use magic, he starts demeaning them, like, oh, you call that magic, you call that ability, you call that this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Or he'll start sweet-talking people, and then once they get in close, fucking they're dead.
And then something I like that we kind of mentioned before, we kind of talked about it outside of the cast, was, qualifications for using the wand. And I think another part to bring back into it, we had talked about the idea of balance and needing to have at least a 16 in all casting wisdom, intelligence, and charisma attributes. And I like the idea that if you're born under this patron's bloodline, you are born with those type of stats. And that's the connection that allows you to weld this without it taking complete control over you.
And then anyone else that touches it that doesn't have that balance, those stats, are we going to go to the bright thing where they get disintegrated?
I was thinking kind of change it up because it's chaotic and wild. Have it to where every time they cast any type of magic with it or any type of ability, they have to use the wild magic table and roll 3 effects each time. 1 for intelligence, 1 for charisma, and 1 for wisdom. And every single time that they try to cast or use the wand, that's then if they're not of the bloodline, crazy things happen. Like old Rick from the lighthouse on the corner tried to pick it up and wield it one time out of curious and a drunken stupor. And when he tried to cast magic missile through it, the magic missile fired off fine, but then he turned into a house plant, a bunny rabbit, and then exploded.
I love that.
I think you should create a roll table that goes from 3 to what's the highest? 60, and then on that table you can total up. You have them roll 3 d20s for their cast, and then whatever number it totals up to, that's the effect that happens.
Well, same thing with the D100 wild magic table that already exists. And you don't have to create it.
But my way's funner.
For you, I have to create it. I have to punch those stats.
That's right. You're right. Yeah. So use a wild magic table.
Stop trying to give our stat puncher more work. He's already working overtime on this. Bruce.
I'm the one that's going to draw most of this shit, so don't come at me all sideways.
Yeah, and he has to write all this out into module form.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It sucks for you guys. I got it easy.
You get the part that you can record and make look all cool on the social medias.
Hell yeah.
All right, so
where are we at with the hips? Are we up to the rib cage now?
With the skeleton?
Yeah.
I think we're just at the knees.
Fuck, I thought we were at...
No, we haven't even hit the time loop yet.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we haven't even got them
after they get there. As soon as they cross the border,
they come to the lip of the canyon where you get the crisscrossing road down.
3,000 feet outside of town is where the temporal chalice starts to take effect on either side. Okay. And as they start to walk through, they can almost feel some type of resistance as they step into it. It's like walking through denser air almost. Its gravity increases for a slight moment as you pass through the field. And as you do, your body has to acclimate to it for a day, and then you're there. But because when they walk in and they're doing stuff there, about halfway through the town is when the restart sets. So every day when the restart sets, they are a 10-minute jog from town.
Well, and this is after they meet the NPC. So, like, in the gauntlet to figure out if you can accept this job, something that happens in that gauntlet is there's a tiefling girl who is, or tiefling, girl or guy, doesn't matter, who is the last one of their party left.
Or I was
that
thinking
Bronson hasn't killed.
No, they were knocked out. He thought he killed them.
Oh, okay.
But she was left in a corridor. So while they're exploring, before they get to the end where he's hanging out waiting, he has a couple traps set just because, if you're too weak to get past these traps, you're too weak
which
to
he set with his hands behind his back, which is also fucking terrifying.
Yeah, it's like he uses his teeth and his toes.
Yeah, oh my god.
And he's really all he's wearing is a long tunic to cover his bits, and that's all he has on him. So literally just a tunic and cuffs on his back.
And instead of tattoos, he has like scars.
Yeah.
Of designs that he's cut into himself.
Like Popek. He is a... can't remember what nationality, but one of those white European countries, and he's considered one of the most radical, crazy rappers in the world who had a big X cut into his face.
Oh, crap. Huh. But yeah, stuff like that. So it's like his tattoos are scars.
Yeah.
Like, and in each line in it is someone he's killed and someone he's,
Yeah, when the first thing they see is, he has, several cuts on his body, like in line form that he cut by finding a rusty, rusty pole or pipe in the dungeon that he's in, and he drags his forehead across it, so he has a gash in his forehead and a gash in his arm and a gash in his chest.
I imagine him looking kind of like Drax, like just that weird raised skin style. But yeah, so there is a unconscious, close to death tiefling there that their whole party was killed trying to do the same thing they're about to do. And maybe that's what gives them their inside information on how to knock him out.
Mm-hmm.
So this NPC is like, don't go at him straight on, or don't go at him from behind. Like, you have to hit him at the same time from the side, and then he's blind on this one. You know, like, they give him that inside knowledge that gets him the job, so then they're more inclined to take him with them. And then now this NPC, who is the Bright, is a part of their party.
And you inhabit where she has some type of magical item that stopped her from dying when it knocked her out. So it, knocked her down to death, but popped her up to 1 HP. But she was smart enough not to stand up, but to feign death after it saved her. And then that's what she gives one of the party members. And that's what kindles that connection to them. They're like, oh, well, she helped us out.
Mm-hmm. So that has to be an aspect of, like, the foot and or knee of, like, okay, this person's traveling with you now. And then,
like I said, and that's one option, or the other option being that it's a NPC that they've known for a long time and that they trust and all this stuff, that they happen to see, like, knocked out, and they know who she is because they've done quests with her before, but they haven't seen her for 10 or 15 years. Oh, cracking one, eh? Rip it. Rip that Red Bull. Rip that Red Bull. Red Bull. Yeah,
Gives
don't
you
worry.
wings.
Don't worry, Nick. We're not doing a podcast or anything right now. Fucking crack that soda, bud. No, I know. I was just trying to give Nick a hard time. So, yeah. DM's discretion. They can either set it up as this is a person they've just come across they don't know, or they come across this person they've quested with her in the past, him or her in the past.
Or they can even write in, like, how we kind of have planned for campaign 2 is, the idea of the mercenary group that we want to create to kind of mold our quest around. If they're part of some type of league or group, they can recognize this person as a member, another member of the mercenary group they belong to.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay. We've made it to the knee where they have crossed in to this. They went through this barrier. They're in the town. They go to deliver the crazy ass tiefling. They have to go into the church to deliver him. When they open the doors to deliver him is when this sonic wave hits.
I think you have to wait until they see the people in the church and they talk to the people in the church and they're like, oh, they can ask questions. That you have to wait for them to ask questions, I think. Like when they get their first question across of like, oh yes, the great sealing wand has protected our city for however long, blah, 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 and they gesture towards a door. And as he gestures towards the door, he kind of leads your party over there and he's walking closer to it and you can feel the hum. And as soon as they step within that hum, boom, the door flies open and there's a flash of energy and this new tiefling has the wand in their hand and then they black out.
Well, what I was thinking too is not so much like a sonic boom or an energy release. The party doesn't even know what's going on yet, and like as they're walking in to deliver the prisoner, that crust I talked about, the half moon crust from the obsidian, as they walk up there, they see it, and then they feel a slight vibration throughout their body, and off in the distance you could just see this what was once standing there supported by this magical force field crumble beneath them or beneath it, and all they see is this crust kind of crumble and fall, and this dome that had been standing there for years now crumbles and falls, and it kind of sends the entire town into a slight panic because they don't know what's going on. Their protective barrier just disappeared
as soon as they walk into town. I actually like that better, but then because what are they going to do next? They don't know what to do next. Like, well, we're here to deliver this guy to the church, so let's go do that and see what the fuck's going on.
And then they get there and, oh, it's too late. It's not worth it now. The item that we needed him to wield is unavailable. It disappeared. It's been stolen. Mm-hmm. And that's what drives the chaos that starts the reset shift. Yeah. And then every day they can start gaining more information. And then we'll have to create, the cathedral and a couple major NPCs to check out that have information. Yeah. And then that'll be the next questing point.
I don't like the idea of them getting hit by something and blacking out at that moment, because I like the idea of them having the whole day to go through and find out what's going on.
Pretty much the first day, like, I don't think there should be any blacking out for the party. They just see the collapse and they kind of feel the tingle, and then they just commence regularly with trying to drop off the NPC, the prisoner. And they're like, yeah, we said there was a bounty. Here's your money. Go on, we need to figure this out. This is, crazy. We need to, we don't have time for you. Thank you for delivering him. It's too late now, but here's your promised money. Go on, get. And then that way they're on their way back. And then halfway through the day or halfway through the trip, when they have to settle down for camp, they go to sleep. And when they wake back up, they're back at the start of town with the prisoner again.
I love that.
That's awesome. And
I like that. I like that it's an effect that happens when they cross the boundary of the dome, because then it just seems like, it's something they have to go and investigate later on. It's like, well, when we walked into town, we felt this pressure and this tingling, almost like your limbs are asleep. And then as we pushed through that and stepped through, it dissipated, but then so did the walls. And
even so, when they reset the next day, they said, oh, well, this is not working, so let's go back to the other town, because they were in there when it happened. What goes on is they leave and they go back to their town, try to circumvent it, like, oh, it must be us showing up that causes. So let's not show up. Well, they don't show up that time, but it's still reset the next day. So no matter which way they go or what they're doing, they're now stuck in this loop. They're part of it. There's no escaping it until you complete the quest.
And every time they do, if you let your guard down, fucking Brahm the Destroyer is going to rip your head off. Yeah. And then if you die, they're dead until everyone goes to sleep, and then boom, they're right there.
Mm-hmm. But I think if you die, instead of just going to sleep for the night, you wake up changing more and more towards tiefling. So the character's race is starting to change. So after so many deaths, on a scale of 1 to 6 deaths or 1 to 12 deaths or something, we have benchmarks. So, okay, you died 3 times. You're now starting to grow horns, and a small tail has emerged. After 6 deaths, you start to notice your skin is turning to the color of a tiefling skin.
It gives me mad fairy tale vibes. The anime fairy tale. There's a mission that they go on, because the fairy tale is a guild of adventurers who goes out and does quests for money. And so this guild fairy tale is like,
keys.
What was that?
And for keys.
And for keys. But they're tasked with curing this village that has a curse on it that turned everyone into demons. And
the moon drip.
Yeah, the moon drip. And so one of the villagers wants to destroy the moon. But so they go on this mission, and it turns out that they were demons all along, but the curse was making them look like humans. So every time the moon came up, they would turn back into demons, and they thought that was the curse. But really it was vice versa. So I get mad vibes like that. So it's like the more you die, the more you turn into things. Yeah. I like that a lot.
So what is going to be our next major plot point that they have to get to? What's going to be the hip of the skeleton?
So I think from the hip all the way to the neck is going to be randomness. It's not going to be any particular order. We just have to create information drops, and like basically a couple obstacles for them to overcome, and it doesn't have to be any particular order. They just all have to be checked.
Okay, so what if we make a generic points for them?
One would be finding out who actually took the wand.
Yeah, finding the main NPC, the main bright, is one part they have to figure out. Another part I feel like they have to do is find a lore dump, so a historian or a priest or something who's older and been there a while that can give them the information they need about the town. Once they, can convince them, hey, I'm this person, I've been resetting, I understand this much, tell me what I need to know. And then once they find that out, they can move on to the next part. Then they find the NPC, they figure out who has it, how to deal with it. And if they, just kill the NPC off, it doesn't reset, it resets again. They have to find a way to complete the ritual to either unleash the demon or separate the demon prince from the NPC.
So I think there's going to be 2 lore dumps. One is what everyone else knows, and then the second lore dump is what they need
from the Senate of the church.
The second lore dump is something closer to the actual truth. So the first lore dump is just what everyone sees as the facade, and then they can start to see holes in it or see cracks in it and realize that it's not exactly true. And then as they go through their other little trials, they find someone who can give them the true lore dump.
Okay. So 2 lore dumps, the finding the NPC that did it, what other main points need to happen in this time loop?
I feel like there's got to be some way for them to be able to offload Mr. Bronson. and find a way to offload him to get them out, because he's just going to be making it harder for everything that they do to happen, because he's going to be interrupting and trying to sweet talk other NPCs into letting them go or help them out.
I think that has to be something they can do early. So, like, one of the things that Tom Cruise does in that movie of Live, Die, Repeat, he starts to figure out shortcuts.
Yeah.
He starts to figure out ways of things he can do that cuts his time down to get to where he needs to be.
Yeah, to cut past the car plane scene and all that, and like getting his clothes. To the point where he talks to the main character and gets to where she is higher up, to where she gives him clearance to train with her every single time.
Yeah. And so there has to be something modular that they can plug in whenever, once they figure it out. So, like...
Yeah,
also, other NPCs who reset with them and have memories of the resets, not just the people who reset the day as if it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so finding other NPCs that are resetting is another plot point they're going to have to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Quick DM note for anyone trying to DM this. As they find these shortcuts, don't make them re-explain it every time. Just like... Okay.
We're going to take this path.
Yeah.
Okay. You give each action a timestamp that says, okay, this takes 20 minutes. This takes 45 minutes. And then so that way, whenever they restart, they just restart later in the day, because they just go through the motions of the shortcut.
Yeah.
So
you can say, okay, you wake up at this, but then you're going to do this. Okay, so now that you've done those things, you know, that we don't need to re-go through every time and waste time and get boring by having the party repeat themselves 1,200 freaking times. It's just, okay, you do this, this, and this. Okay, perfect. If that's going to be our basic new point where we're starting from, then we're just going to assume that you woke up at this time, you did all those things. Okay, now you're here. So what do you do from this point?
I can say for the Bronson dump, when they first come through that wall and they break through the tingles, and then so do the walls, there's a large stone that falls down near them. So the first time they do it, they do you take their passive perception, and it's not over a certain number. Yeah, and deck saves, so that the next time they come in, they find out, well, he's not important anyways. So instead of saving him from the rock falling, they just let it crush his ass.
Or
and
he
then
doesn't
they move on.
seem important, so they kill him off for a while, but then he's being needed for the ritual later.
Interesting. I like that.
And then also, just if everyone's aware, 11th hour spoilers coming right now. Kind of, and another thing is, you know, when they get to use of this get like all the different checkpoints, they can basically, you know, okay, we do this. Well, when it gets to a certain point that they have it all down, and they can learn which things they can skip, and basically, like when they skip all the getting arrested and meeting up with Root Barrel Gerblin's lady Cassidy. And they go, okay, we skip that and just go straight to the mines. So basically, there's a certain point where they can just skip everything and go straight to the action point when it's time for like the final like ordeal.
Once we got the lore from this, or the information dump from this person, we know what information we need, so we know what's the quickest way to get away from them. So we're gonna just get away from them and go straight to the mines, or we're not gonna even interact with them at all. We're just gonna go straight to the mines. Yeah, I think you're gonna have to have some kind of natural disaster thing going on too. Of where, you know, now that the barrier is gone, the volcano...
And then every night at 11:42, there is an explosion that flattens the town and kills everyone, causing the reset.
A hard reset. I like that, too.
So it's not just falling asleep. So if you're in the town, you end up dying. The whole party dies every time they hit that time in the town. And then that eggs them on to go through the transformation more.
Okay.
So they have to find a way to do everything by 10:30 and use the last 45 minutes to get the hell out of Dodge. So they don't turn into tieflings more, unless they want to turn into tieflings. So some questing ideas that they have to figure out, you know, the two lore dumps between the public knowledge and the hidden knowledge. Finding out the different locations, so at different times of day, depending on what time they look for the bright will be in different locations. So they know at different times and find out through different playthroughs that the bright is in the morning here, the bright is in the afternoon here, the bright in late afternoon, early evening is here, and at the night before the explosion, the bright's here.
Yeah.
So that way, based off where they are, they know where to go find the bright to do stuff. And then whenever they get the hidden knowledge, they learn of a ritual that needs to be cast in a certain location of the town at the site of the rift, and that leads to a small battle where they end up fighting some of these creatures that come out of the rift. and find the pedestal or whatever for the ritual, and they perform the ritual there. And then whenever they perform the ritual, they can do the easier ritual that just brings the demon out, or they can do the separation ritual, which they have to learn through more digging for lore. But they can figure that out with the help of whoever gave them the hidden knowledge, and they can give them some old ancient text to read through and learn about the ritual.
And that would be an option to basically save the NPC.
Yeah.
And, okay. So I think that would handle the skeleton from the hips to the neck. And then now they have the BBG battle, yes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is going to be the Demon Prince.
Yeah.
So I think a part of this ritual of sealing is you have to call him forward. You have to release him again.
Part of it's learning his real name.
Okay. And so when you do that, though, that calls him in. And because that NPC who's with you guys is a perfect conduit, they are then taken over.
Yeah, so essentially what it is like, so when you needed the Bronson character for the last part, you only need him if you're trying to save the NPC. So you need a second conduit.
And because he's another perfect conduit.
So you need another conduit to take it out of the character that you like and put it into Bronson and slay Bronson instead.
But guys, he's already fucking terrifying and he's not possessed by a demon prince.
Yeah.
So good fucking luck.
Yeah, it gets
shit.
hard as fuck.
Yeah. Like, well, we want to save this NPC because we love them. Like, they're great. They're awesome. Funny moments, all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. Well, if we want to save them, the other perfect conduit who matched their description exactly was
so basically
Bronson.
you're trading, like, do you want to take the easy route and play the vanilla big bad
You
guy?
play expert
or do you
mode.
want to play or do you want to play horror mode?
Blindfolded. Yeah. Because
On a
it's
speed
gonna
run.
be rough.
Yep.
And he can't have his anti-magic cuffs on, too, because he has to be susceptible to magic coming in. So...
And part of the thing is, how do you convince him to go along with it every time? Because I imagine even though the party's resetting, he's not resetting the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you wake up, he has no idea there's been a reset.
Yeah. And then you also have to think about all the situations that they got through with decorum that is lost when Bronson is there. You have to replay those scenes because you're like, well, how are you going to get Bronson through the scene where you're consoling the mother and she's, crying over this or that and the other,
and all he's trying to do is kick her in the head.
Yeah, and he picks up the rock that crushed her son and crushes her with it. Yeah, like how do you do that? So I can see that being really fun. That's the catch-22.
That's another thing too, is whenever that obsidian rock crust crumbles, give it a timestamp. Like, it starts to crumble at this point, but at this time the whole thing comes down and it crushes these buildings, killing this amount of people. So if they wanted to go the good player route, now they have to spend time excavating and getting all the people out of those homes before it happens, and that takes a huge chunk of time to do it. But they'll get more good points and more
that
XP.
may even be a whole loop.
Mm-hmm.
That may be even a whole loop of figuring out how to get people out of certain areas
even
quickly.
Like 2-3 loops. But
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how are you going to figure out how to get them out of that loop quickly enough before that giant rock?
Finding authorities that you learn a certain set of words that gets them to be convinced to believe you, and then help you and have them do it automatically. So the first thing you do is go talk to them.
Oh, so what they do is they find one of the two-headed coins and they say, if this lands on heads, you're going to be crushed by an obsidian, and they flip it, and it lands on heads.
Well,
fuck.
That gives me the total vibes of again 11th Hour when that bank burns down and all the people are inside, and at first they're like, "Fuck those people, fuck that bank."
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing this. I gotta figure out this problem.
Okay. And then eventually, after going into the bank, they're like, "Oh fuck! Like, there's people in there we care about."
Yeah, I even like another part too that they do as part of the scene to get more information is somehow for a part of it, they have to be, they have to convince the NPC Bright to use their magic to open the rift enough for them to cross over to the Hell Dimension and go seek the actual royalty who lives there and get the information from them. And the whole time they're
the
like,
true name.
Yeah, and they go meet the true royalty, and they caught up there and stuff. And if they die or anything happens in the other dimension, they're no longer in the reset.
Ooh, so there's real problems.
But there's a time limit on how long they can be there before they get pulled back.
Interesting. I like that a lot.
I love that.
So it's a hard reset. 1142, wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
a volcano doesn't only erupt, it like the whole bottom layer of it explodes.
Well, I'd say the volcano erupts, and as the lava comes down and decimates part of the cathedral, it opens up and superheats that rift, and the rift is activated, and at that point, a flood of demons come pouring out and
Anyone
start
who wasn't
ravaging
burned
the town.
is chewed to death. Oh,
and that's
man.
the big explosion, the big flattening of it is all these demons and shit coming out of the rift, wreaking havoc on this town.
And then once they do get to the portal, and the Bright is able to use the power to open the doorway, they have an hour in game to figure out.
Yeah, I would even just put a real 1 hour timer on. And be like, when this is up, your spell ends and you're back.
You're back at the opening with
Yep.
Brutus the Destroyer.
Mm-hmm. Or not even back.
Bronson the Destroyer. Sorry.
You're brought back, and then you're brought back. You're back with the NPC who opened it for you, the Bright, but it's at 10:30 now, so you only have an hour and 12 minutes to continue on. So it's like, oh, time to reset.
Fuck. So I think for writing this up, we're gonna have to write out a timeline.
Oh, there's gonna be a timeline. There's gonna be time steps, and then we're gonna have alternate endings and at least 2 big bad guy sheets. One for
one for
Bright.
with Bronson and one without.
Yeah.
Man, it's gonna be fun. Be
I
very
think
choose your own adventure.
Yeah, I think what we have created.
So if we're going
baller
with choose your own adventure,
campaign.
I want a random effect where if they go into the wrong house, they run into and get killed by a Yeti.
There has to be.
There has to be one
has to
Yeti
be.
encounter.
Yes.
One random ass Yeti encounter on this volcano.
Absolutely.
Okay, I can write that in.
All right.
Maybe that's one of the wild magic things. Well, one of the wild magic casting things.
Well, I was thinking like oh, you go to see the old hag's house who lives on the outskirts of town underneath the caves, and you go into the cave to get her wisdom. And as you open the door to get her wisdom, the first
Do you
2
knock
members
first or not?
Well, regardless, the first 2 members to enter get their heads chewed off by a Yeti. You die by a Yeti.
Fuck.
Return to page 264 to continue your
Oh
adventure.
fuck!
And then literally there's a piece of parchment on the ground that says, "You've been killed by a Yeti.
Oh
Turn
no!
to page 267 to complete your adventure."
Oh no! She's Deadpooled. She's broke the fourth wall.
Oh god, I love it. I think it's dope. I think we have the full skeleton up now. We have
Okay.
the world.
And at this point, I think it's probably a good idea to introduce ourselves. 'Cause I
Oh,
didn't do it
yeah,
at the
we didn't
beginning.
do that at the beginning.
So Trevor, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Hey, I am Trevor. I'm your continuity conductor. I keep these two on the rails and keep their thought processes of craziness flowing in a positive direction, which this
And-
episode has been tricky.
And I'm Bruce, the mad scientist.
And I'm Nick, your stat puncher.
So now that we got that intro out of the way, let's get into the episode, guys. So we've got the world built. We've got the climate terrain. We've got the kind of feel. We have the skeleton built.
Mm-hmm.
I think-
the BBG is
Let's
gonna
go over some descriptors on the BBG, some
Yeah.
ideas for them. We haven't gotten real far into the big bad demon prince yet.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
let's start with appearance. What type of appearance or visage do you think is going to inhabit this big bad evil guy? Let's start with the demon prince, and then also the demon prince final form when inhabiting a conduit.
So I think the demon prince is very I imagine Goliath stature,
Mm-hmm.
but very skin and bones, almost like skin literally wrapped around bones, except a little bit like there's a little meat to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I imagine like tiefling horns, but thicker,
Yeah.
almost like a Hellboy, but they curve back around the skull and up towards like ram almost, like
Okay.
ram horns. But they curl up and out. And then you have obviously long spiked tail. I don't think there's wings on this guy though.
No, I don't think
He's only a
wings.
prince.
So in last night's game, I created an NPC, and I'm kind of picturing this for the demon prince.
Okay.
He was a older half elf visage, pointed ears and all that. But the traits he had was he had a black and white comb back slick hair
Okay.
with silver speckled into it, and had kind
Literally salt and pepper.
of literally salt and pepper.
Okay.
And had a penciled mustache and a small pointed goatee.
Okay. That's a look right there.
So one thing else you added to that character that I think would go super good with this demon prince, it was that black dripping ooze coming off of him.
Okay, so from the gore harpies.
Yeah, sorry, from the gore harpies, yes.
And I also kind of like to have that almost pseudo taco voice that goes along with it.
Okay.
And for just everyone's ears,
I was gonna say, what is that?
This NPC's name happened to be called Steamy Dan.
Oh God. Damn it! I'm gone for one game, and now there's a guy named Steamy Dan
and Haggard McKinley.
Oh God.
See what happens when you're not there,
Yep.
Bruce? This is the kind of off the fucking wall shit we get from Nick when you're not there.
Too crazy.
But
you send him through episodes of Walking, just like Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say when Nick's not there, we end up in a tunnel for 5 episodes waiting for Nick to come back.
Yep.
And then when Nick's there, fucking crazy ass
Balls to the walls
shit
improv.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Happens.
Okay, so the version you were describing, is that the humanoid version, or is that the full
That'd be the
demon
kind of
prince?
humanoid version. I was kind of picturing Goliath stature, maybe a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the kind of sucked in, emaciated look you described,
Mm-hmm.
but I also like a real dapper kind of like 1920s, maybe upwards of 1930s kind of jazz musician.
Okay.
Real smooth, slick, and
Mm-hmm.
older, almost maybe Italian or Frenchman.
Mm-hmm. Like a guy, you look at him, you're like, that guy's a silver tongue. Like,
Yeah.
that guy right there can sell you a car.
Yeah.
He can sell you out of your car.
That guy right there can sell me my own child.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. Very humanoid face, not like anything too gaunt or scary, but
But
like...
definitely has also a tiefling appearance, so almost
Yeah.
like a silvery colored flesh.
Okay.
It's like a granite, but with specks of rare metals in it.
Ooh, I like that.
And so he
Or
almost
like a
has nice
stone that
sheen to
isn't
him.
quite up to mirror polish yet. So
Yeah.
it's like it's polished, but you still see the imperfections in it, but it's still shining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Almost has a glistening quality to him.
Are you making a Twilight-esque vampire happening?
No,
right
no
now?
fucking glitter pencils.
How fucking dare you?
Last thing I need to do is fucking, meet a vampire and look like I went to the goddamn strip club.
Well, either way, you're getting your neck sucked. Nothing? Really? Come on, guys.
I giggled. I had a mouthful of vape.
That's true. Vape.
Chonky cat.
I was chonky. All right.
Now
Okay.
the humanoid version, the
That was
conduit.
The conduit. So when he goes into a
That is-
conduit, I feel like it's much more gruesome.
Ooh, I like the lanky lycanthrope kind of look.
Yeah, and this is a good. I think would be good for entering in that gore harpy aspect of like the tar, the slime,
Mm-hmm.
kind of dripping and oozing off his body.
Oh,
So imagine you take Charles Bronson and then elongate him, from his normal 6 foot whatever stature to 12 feet tall.
holy shit.
And when he does it, he doesn't gain any mass, so his body literally
Mhm.
shrinks to fit that form. His
Mhm.
muscular stature and his flesh all stretched to meet
And
that form.
and how this transformation starts is he drops to his knees and starts throwing up black ichor.
Yeah.
And just like the more he vomits and retches and his body riddles with this racking pain, you see his muscles
Yeah.
and his joints just popping out of place and just and he's just still
And then when he stands up, this black ichor is dripping out of his mouth, out of his nostrils, from his eye sockets,
anywhere
and
where the
his
skin
ears.
couldn't hold is ripped
Yeah.
and it's oozing this black ichor.
But it's not black. It's almost like an iridescent black, where there's silvery, pearly shine coming from
Ooh,
it.
it's a pearlescent. I like that. And then if it's your NPC, a part of your party, like if you haven't voted to save them, it's something similar. I don't think it's tall though. I think that the tiefling that's in your party is a lot smaller.
I feel like if the bright does it, it's almost more of a bestial form. It goes on to 4 legs, and the head juts forward, giving it a snout, and the horns grow into like the visage of a ram, like real large ram horns, and then it'll sprout wings and become almost like a chimera or a hippogriff or some type of winged beast that's ram-like and is kind of that same type.
Because the bright is fighting it, but it's some kind of animal nature between.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes out a little different, so it's more of a bestial, less humanoid. version.
I imagine it kind of tries to track with the demons that are coming through the rift.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine the demons coming through the rift are more animalistic,
Mm-hmm.
and so because of that, that is that energy of the demon prince.
Mm-hmm.
That's that big demon prince energy.
Yeah.
Of creating these nasty, crazy creatures. And so when the Bright starts to fight it, he starts to rely on that kind of
Like kind of
okay,
like, well, you can
force
see
it.
that, so I'm gonna force it, and then that's what makes him less strong in this form is because there's resistance. So we'll take away some of like one of his legendary resistances, take away one of his legendary actions, and even shrink down some of the layer actions it causes at this rift. So I imagine at the rift, because the power's so strong, we'll give it a lot more layer actions that he can use by like, okay, well, I summon 2 more beasts to come fight by my side as a layer action, or I have hellfire spew out in this certain direction around
or the
it.
black ichor is sprayed on you guys, and it's like a acid damage.
Or, part of it is one of the layer actions can be he summons 2 of these hellhound-like beasts that attack with him, and one of them grapples a party member. Well, the next layer action on the next round is those 2 beasts explode, creating that black ichor to cover people, and it's an acid that will also hold you in place. It holds you like
it's a gelatinous cube.
Yeah, but it also disintegrates you slightly. So if you're not wearing magical armor and weapons, they'll start to disintegrate and deteriorate, and you'll lose AC and lose your attack power.
Yeah. Fuck. So you definitely don't want that Bronson fight, that's for sure.
It's going to be harder, but you got to make it so it's not an impossible feat.
No, it's not.
It has to be a viable option. It's not you're completely facing a demon.
Well, if they die there,
it's going to end in a TPK.
Well, and also as part of the lore dumps too, what we can do too is have it to where if you fight him and the Bright's body, the magic item is consumed at the end of the battle when you kill her. Everything is sucked back into the hell portal, including the town, to destroy it and take ownership of its domain. But if you kill them in the action or the Charles Bronson type fighter, when you kill them because you pulled it out of the tiefling, they still have the wand. So when it's all said and done, you now get that wand, that magical item as a reward.
Okay.
So you can take the easy way out, get the easier fight, but you learn that if you complete the ritual properly and put it into a more willing conduit, you don't need that magic wand there as a force point to keep it there. You don't need the thrall because they're willing, and it'll down power the wand a little bit. It won't be as powerful as it was when it all started, but now the party has this badass magical item from this quest.
Yeah, I like that.
But regardless, I like the idea that at some point in there they can find some type of coffer full of coin that they can rob and loot and stuff that resets every time.
Yeah.
But so depending on what time they start this battle and start the ritual, that's when the resets stop. So it's like, okay, you got to this point, no more resets.
Yeah.
So they can basically say, okay, we want to go prep this coin and steal it, but after the battle's over, at that 1142 mark, when everything destroys, it all gets sucked into the portal. So they basically have to rush out of the town or get sucked into the hell dimension and figure out a way to get out of there. Next is the next part of the story if they don't get away.
I like that a lot.
All right, this feels like a flush
Yeah,
out.
we did a really good job. I'm pretty proud of us right now.
Yeah. It only took us 8 hours. This is going to be edited down, though, so you'll only have, maybe 2 hours,
Well, I promise
15
there's
minutes.
a full 25-minute gap to cut.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's the problem when you have a baby that needs to go to bed, and then you also have an infant that you had 6 days ago.
So,
My dad was the baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
some things.
Just making sure.
Your dad was the baby.
No.
Not
That's
the actual
infant.
baby you have. So, like we had said in the previous episode when we promised this extra long special edition episode for episode 10, this is a little bit of flavor of some things that we are going to start to offer on our
Patreon?
What is the name of that? Yes. This is some of the stuff we're going to start to offer on our Patreon that we're going to open up. So this one was for free. You guys get this just as a standard episode. But we are going to be opening up a Patreon soon, and we are going to be doing things like this as little bonus episodes where you're going to get a full fleshed out campaign or a full fleshed out BBG to add into your existing campaign. Things like that will all be on the Patreon and not in
And one of
standard
us here
episodes.
is getting a 3D printer, and you'll probably be getting minis of the bad guys that go along with the story. So
yeah, so end goal, what we want to provide for all of you listeners out there who support us, we would like to be able to, on Patreon, create a physical copy of everything we just discussed. Give you a module to play with character sheets and stat blocks for all the NPCs and creatures, and artwork, and then also on top of all that, if we can get going, have an option to sell with or without minis, to where you can get one with just the big bad mini, and then one with a big bad mini, as well as a couple of the NPCs and creatures to put along with creature cards to use to fight with.
Yeah.
And just so you guys know what the Patreon does for us is that's eventually going to give us ability to turn what you guys want into a cash source that we can use to buy better equipment. So you'll have better listening. It gives us the ability
Put out
to
merch and other physical items such as minis and things like that on a wider scale. Get us better filament for the printer.
Re-up our subscription to keep the podcast on our network.
Maybe upgrade printers, get both, filament and resin-based printers for different items.
So it's going to be what's going to keep this podcast going. Keeping, like I said, just at a base level, minimalist idea, just paying for our subscriptions to keep this podcast going out. But it's also, like Nick was saying, going to give us the ability to add more things to what we're already giving you with those merch items, and having that upfront cash to buy those merch items and buy the better filament for the 3D printer and keep all of that going and get more wide scale with it and just really grow. So keep an eye out for our Patreon that's going to be launching soon, and that is really going to help us as
also
a podcast
with our
group.
Patreon, if you subscribe, hopefully we'll be able to get out playthroughs of these one-shot 6-shooters and quests that we create, and you'll be able to hear played through, so you get an idea of some options that can be done and you compare it to your own games. Hopefully we can get this one fleshed out and get it ran in a couple games and have that loaded up weekly or bi-weekly on the Patreon as bonus content. Each time we hit 10 episodes, we want to do another special one like this and do the playthroughs and give you guys some bonus content that only our truest fans subscribe to, and you guys get a little bonus and some actual play material.
So I think this is our way of leading into our kind of wrap up and goodbyes. So I'll go ahead and start out if you guys are all caught up.
Housekeeping. Do our housekeeping for us, Bruce.
A little bit of housekeeping. You can always...
You have fresh towel?
I fluff your pillow.
I need fresh towel.
So
You want me to jack you off?
What kind of podcast is this?
Housekeeping, sucky $5, me love you long time.
Okay.
What kind of housekeeper is this?
And in a little coat.
Trevor, I'm gonna need you to cut all of this out. Housekeeping. You can always reach out and send us your questions by finding us on social media at SitDMs1, it's @SITDMS1. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram. Yeah, we're everywhere. You can also leave us a review on whatever podcasting app you use. iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, everywhere. So if you can go ahead and leave us a review, that would be amazing.
Also, you can reach us out to us directly via email at emailthedms@gmail.com.
We are also still accepting those people reading as a character, saying, my name is Brom the Destroyer, and before I snap your neck, I'd like you to roll for initiative. Something like that. And we're still taking those, and we appreciate those. Those are going to be our new openings for our episodes, instead of having one of us or Carter read the roll for initiative. And I think most of all, thank you for listening in, thank you for finding us. And word of mouth is our AOE, so you can increase our area of effect if you go ahead and just mention it to a friend, and maybe send them an episode, or let them know kind of what we're about. And nerds love nerds, so
use that word of mouth, as Trevor likes to use ice knife, and if we get lucky, it'll give us some splash damage.
yeah every time.
That's right. And
I want to say a big thanks to Carter for our
Yep.
intro and a Roll for Initiative original.
Yeah. I also want to thank my pops, Travis, winning with a B, and thank him for sticking in as long as he could in the beginning of the episode, giving us a little bit more layers to our little campaign idea here. What else?
And please do send in your questions. We do have one in the chamber that we are going to be answering next episode. So,
It's a good one.
Jackie, thank you for sending in your question, and we didn't miss over you. We just had this different type of episode we were going to get through this week, but next episode we're definitely going to get to that question. And if you want your question answered along with Jackie's, or even just maybe a crazy kooky idea you want to throw at us, something totally absurd you found on a D&D forum or Yahoo Answers, whatever that you thought was hilarious and you think we'll just get a kick out of and you want us to riff on a little bit, we can do that too. We can do that too. So send screenshot those off the forum and send those in.
Come on,
What,
finish
Bruce?
it up already. Fuck.
Also, another thing you guys can send in is if you have any ideas or any creatures or anything you want me to punch some stats for. I'd be happy to do it. Love to take a swing at it and get those stats made out for whatever your crazy idea is. Let me know and I'll get to work on it. Who knows? Maybe your idea will be our next creature creation in Bruce's ill-advised creature creation corner.
Yeah, you never know.
All right. So normally we like to exit each episode with a quip, a D&D related quip.
And we'll insert those now.
I rolled highest initiative, so I can go with mine first. Hey Boyos, why did the halfling stop dating his Warforged girlfriend?
Why?
She was too high maintenance.
Ah, fuck you. I rolled next highest, and I've been sitting on this one for a while. So, what do you get when you cross a hill giant and a dragon?
What?
I don't know, but I'm blaming Bruce's ill-advised creature creation corner.
Oh fuck.
Why did the vampire make a career out of bounty hunting?
Why?
Because he would only accept blood money.
God damn it. Well, thank you guys all again, and as always, fare thee well and adventure onward.
Spice.